I've gone on some extended fast that didn't end well. I was hospitalized because it was too much.
The reason we don't want to let go of something that feels good is because we've tangled our identity to it. Because we haven't stabilized what we truly are yet. Once we stabilize what we truly are, then letting go of stuff is very easy.
So what creates pearls? Agitation,
Pressure.
being uncomfortable. So when I stopped going, my identity was ripped out from underneath me. And it was one of the hardest, most gut-wrenching seasons of my life, because I no longer had something else outside of me to hang on to anymore. Who am I without all of that? And can I come to terms with who God created me to be, whether or not it fits inside the confines of the four walls of a church?
And that's what the paranoia is. Because you're in a state where you don't want to handle that. And so people report paranoia as like, oh, I can't do this. I'm not going to do cannabis anymore, right?
What's interesting is that
Yeah, go ahead.
different reaction based on the form, like smoking it versus taking an edible
Oh, yeah.
or drinking, having a
Yeah.
drink with it in it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, drinking cannabis through a gummy, when it goes through your liver and stuff, has a different effect than smoking it. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think, smoking it through the lungs, you're going to get, you can predict the takeoff, the plateau, and the down and the float much, much more rapidly. Whereas with edibles, it takes time to really understand the dosage, and it sometimes leads to nauseousness for some people. And it has more of a out-of-body experience effect to it when you do it, when you ingest it. So, interesting stuff right there. And then, of course, you have your other psychedelics, the mushrooms, and then,
I've had very good experiences with psilocybin.
Yeah, psilocybin, that compound is very, very close to dimethyltryptamine. DMT.
DMT. Okay.
The psilocybin compound, if you put it on a graph versus the DMT, psilocybin DMT, very similar. Yeah, very similar. I like mushrooms because of its connection to the earth.
I would have very powerful emotions that I wasn't in touch with.
Yeah.
Until having that substance ingested in my body.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it disintegrates that ego barrier. That's what it does. Are we on, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay. When I do utilize cannabis, I'll also fast from that for several months. It's just something I built in.
So you fast from it and then you do it?
Yeah, I'll do it for maybe a few months. And then I realize it's time to not use it anymore. Because like Mike said, your mind sees things in an angle where you get deeper revelations. So there's definitely a lot of value in that. But you have to possess the discipline to also discard it from your life for several months. That puts you in a place of true balance. So I do that. I just, gone. Don't need it anymore. What's nice about that, because I fast. So I practice fasting every week. I fast for 72 hours. I'm in a fast now, so I won't eat till Thursday. Okay, so I do that. When you fast, you can apply the power of fasting to just about anything in life.
I've gone on some extended fast that didn't end well. I was hospitalized because it was too much.
A lot of people that come into fasting, they hear so many positive notes about it, and they're sold on it. but most people approach it too fast.
Too fast.
Maybe that's why
fast.
it's called a fast. We'll have to look that up. Pun intended, right?
Yeah.
When you come in gung-ho, you want to get all this stuff, and because all of the stuff that fasting promises is true. But again, we come from a disposable culture, and sometimes, often lack of patience, right? So I don't know what happened with you, but I know that most people that approach fasting, they come into it too strong, too fast, and then they have some negative experiences because it works, and then they're just thrown off by it. They don't do it anymore. And then, of course, they might get supporting criticism from the powers to be that they will then also build into their confirmation that this isn't for me.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, confirmation bias. But if you approach fasting slower, let the body, catch up, then you can build it into your life for good.
And I think what happens is when you fast, because I did it, I was one of those extreme people.
Yeah, I thought so.
What happens is that the amount of toxins that are released in your bloodstream and can't be absorbed are then affecting the brain.
Yeah, that's really good way to put it. Yeah. But if you do it gradually and you get through the bumps, your body starts to clean up. And now, it's like your pool filter. Once you get that filter cleansed, like your liver and all these organs, your blood's cleaner. And then, so there's a break-in effect, right? So we want to approach that period, breaking in period, a little softer. And then you have longevity. But back to cannabis, because I've stabilized fasting, I don't get sick. My immune system is at top notch. But more importantly, there's many benefits. I approach that discipline, that relinquishing of cannabis or whatever substance or food, very much easier. Because
How long have you been using fasting as a protocol?
for over 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, over 20 years. In these latest 5 years, these past 5 years, so 47 to 52, it's a weekly thing now, whereas in the prior 15 years, it was more intermittent style.
That's usually what I do is the intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
Rather than doing it for long periods of time that would end me in the hospital because I learned that the hard way.
It started with intermittent and weekends once in a while, but then I wasn't moving the needle anymore with the intermittent, and I wanted to reach deeper levels, and then that's when I started doing prolonged fasting, which is 48 hours, 72 hours, 96 hours. Now at 72 hours once a week, I'm good. My colon is completely empty, cleansed. I, of course, do my other things, yoga and meditation and sauna and cold plunge and all these other things. But I've gotten to a place where I can't be addicted to stuff anymore. I'm okay with letting go, because what's left after letting go is this avalanche of bliss, which I've stabilized. That's what it is. The reason we don't want to let go of something that feels good is because we've tangled our identity to it. Because we haven't stabilized what we truly are yet. Once we stabilize what we truly are, then letting go of stuff is very easy. It's much easier. It's much easier. And so I guess that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about meditation, spirituality, approach to life, liberation, things like that. It's stabilizing your true identity, that level of acceptance. So fasting helps with that. So there will be this discarding of something that makes you feel good, that you look forward to, but that becomes an idol, and it's keeping you from your true self, the true part of you that is one with God. So letting go of that illusion of things that make you happy. There'll be a brief period of depression, but that's exactly the corridor to then find your true self and stabilize that. Otherwise, that's an idol. The cannabis or the food are idols. They provide temporary dopamine highs, and we look forward to that. What I'm saying is, I don't want to look forward to any of those things. I want to look forward to one thing, that secret place of the Most High. Truly, not just by cliche, but going to that place and stabilizing that. And so letting go of things that are in place of that, which causes a period of a minor depression, that's cleansing. That's good. Yeah. That is the path. So let go and then stabilize. That's
How would you encourage somebody who's in that depressive state, not quite, hasn't gotten to bliss yet?
Well, don't give up. And every time you do it, be consistent, fill that place, that void with your spiritual practices, which are attempts to connect with God. That's all that is. And keep doing that. And that earnest desire to stabilize that connectivity will come to fruition. You just have to be consistent, patient, and disciplined. Don't give up. Eventually, you will become a person of interest, a POI. You will be noticed because that is a sign of maturity. You'll be noticed, and then you'll have favor. Nature will provide openings and eureka moments. They'll come. And that will usher you in. But you have to go through that dark night of the soul. You got to go through that. You got to get rid of the idols, the things that make you happy. You'll get those back. You'll enjoy cannabis. You'll enjoy food again, but you're not attached anymore. That's what I'm trying to talk about here. Detachment. They're fine. They're fine by themselves. They're not evil. It's what we assign to them secretly, unconsciously. That's what causes the quagmire. We assign things to them, and we don't scrutinize that assignment. So what I'm saying is, from the perspective of mysticism, is that we got to overthrow those tables, create a little chaos, cut ourselves off from it, rely only on God in our meditation, in our different practices throughout the day, until that connectivity becomes stabilized. And it will. Definitely it will. And it's worth it. It's worth it. It's really why we came here, I think. We came here with a preset of problems. We chose that. I think we chose to come in with all of these things that you have going on. They're meant to be.
That's the hardest thing to wrap your brain around.
Right. Only makes sense on the other side of it, in retrospect. Only when you overcome it and look back, you realize what that really was. You will know one day. You can hear it from me, but experientially you know it. You'll know it. And you go, okay, that totally makes sense. Why else would I have come to Earth? It's because of these things. So anyways, yeah. So Jamie's here.
Hi.
Hi, Jamie.
Good to see you guys. What came to mind with that question, what you said, is several things in nature, right? So what creates pearls? Agitation,
Pressure.
pressure, being uncomfortable, really having to like grind all of those whatever you call them, atoms or
Yeah.
whatever,
Or even
together.
Precious
right?
metals or diamonds,
Yeah.
right?
Diamonds as well.
Gold. You know.
But it's like through that refinement process, through that pressure, through that experience that then creates that thing of such innate value, because it's through that story, it's through that turmoil, it's through that self-reflection where you're like, I was completely dependent, for me, this is me personally, on the church system for my spirituality.
Yeah,
That's
a deep one.
Yeah, I went to church 3-4 days a week. I studied the Bible on Sunday at Sunday school every week. I studied all the scriptures. I memorized them all from front to back. Like, and that was part of my life. That was my lifestyle. That was my identity. That was completely who I was. So when I stopped going, my identity was ripped out from underneath me. And it was one of the hardest, most gut-wrenching seasons of my life, because I no longer had something else outside of me to hang on to anymore. So then what, right? It's just you and God, and you're having to deal with yourself, you know? And that was like it's kind of ironic, but a come to Jesus moment where it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I really believe? Like, who am I really without the Sunday and the Wednesday and the worship and the, choir and the things? Who am I without all of that? And can I come to terms with who God created me to be, whether or not it fits inside the confines of 4 walls of a church? Can I come to terms with that? And it was a really dark night of the soul for me. Like, I really had to figure out who I was beyond all of those external factors. And it was intense. But I'm so glad I did it, because I really was able to reach down deep into the core of who I am and really start to rebuild myself as myself, not with other people's input, not with somebody else telling me who I was supposed to be or how I was supposed to act, where I was supposed to stand up or sit down or be on my knees or say this prayer or repeat this verse. Not that any of those things are innately bad. It's just that when you're in it your whole life, that becomes your ritual, and that's what you rely on more than your sacred space with Christ alone, more than anything else. It becomes your crutch. And so, I thank God for that time. I thank God for all of the crazy that those years brought, because it really made me honest.
Did you feel a sense of guilt when you walked away? Because that's...
My grandfather's was a pastor.
Yeah.
I have 5 uncles. Half of them are pastors. My brother was a full-time missionary for 20 years. It's my family culture. It's not just me walking away like no big deal. It's like me walking away is a big deal. But I had to do it for myself, because I wasn't going to church for the right reasons. I was going to church because I should. That's not the right reason. And every time I went, it was stress. It was like this uneasiness for me. And I was like, this is not what Christ talked about. This is not what it's supposed to be. So for me, it was walking away to find what truth is and really kind of deconstructing all of those beliefs so that I was able to become fully me. So yeah, it was really difficult.
How long was that process? Or if you don't mind me asking.
It's still unraveling. I mean, because
Okay.
think about it. I went to church. I was a pastor's kid of a pastor's kid 14 times over. Okay. So to say it's in my blood is like minimal, but I'm still dealing with it. I think part of it is that it's a club, so to speak. And
Yeah.
if you're not part of it, it's really awkward, to say the least, because it's like they have this language that they speak even, and I jokingly call it Christianese, but it's like how they filter their entire world is around this narrative, which is not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it's difficult when you leave that to be able to
Have a narrative of your own.
yeah, go figure. So it's just, and honestly, I think the most recent one for me has been unraveling my ideas around that in and of itself. Like, do my parents see me any differently? Do they love me any less? No. Do they still support me? Yes. So it's like, it's probably the little Jamie in me that's like thinking those things or still reflecting on that, where, I just have to come to terms with it fully so that I can be myself. And whether or not that means I step foot in a church again, I don't know. I'm open to whatever God has for me. All I know is I'm being true to myself in my journey, and I'm being honest for the first time in my life. So to me, that's more valuable than anything else. Me being honest with myself and being pure with my intention is one of the biggest things I've ever done for myself.
See, I just recently started to go to church.
Yeah.
I hate that even saying it. I hate even saying that because it sounds
Yeah.
so weird. It's so opposite of
Yeah.
what Christ taught
Yeah.
to go to church.
Well, like we said last time, they kicked him out of every church you ever
Yeah.
went to.
So a lot of stuff is coming up for me from the past.
Yeah.
Like past church experiences, and
Yeah.
it's wild.
It is.
It's wild, and there's a part of me that identifies with it, but there's another part of me that just doesn't identify with it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's a huge thing to come to terms with, in your late 40s. Like,
Yeah.
I've been doing this all my life, and it doesn't make sense to me anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's valid. And I think there's a lot to be said about that, because it's not just us. There's thousands and thousands of people that this is happening with, that in Christendom in general, it's been happening.
But I love people. It's the
Yeah.
people in the church that keep
the community a
it's
part
the
of it.
community, yeah.
Yeah.
And losing that feels like very overwhelming.
It is. It is very overwhelming. And I struggle with that for a long time, especially having kids. It was really difficult for me to not fall back on that programming of like, okay, this is what we do. This is how we do it. But at the same time, I didn't want my kids to do it because they had to or they should. I wanted my kids to choose because they chose. And so
Powerful.
that's why we decided not to raise them in the church, not because we hate the church. They've been to church many times. But we just didn't raise them in that specific way because we wanted them to choose for themselves. So.
And they know how powerful they are as creators then without that echo chamber, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, and then depending on where you go, you get different versions of that too, right? So if you're a woman in some circles of Christendom, you can't do most things. In other circles, you can. And so there's a lot of different varieties of that happens as well. But like I said, it's not bad. It's just that's where they are. And I can't lie and say that that's where I am. I'm out of respect for them and for my family. I'm not going to lie and say that that's where I am, because it's not. And to me, that's better than pretending.
Agree.
So Crazy, right?
I love that you can, though, have your own sense of identity, even though that's your total family culture.
Yeah.
And I think that's where I'm struggling right now.
Well, I have a really amazing support network, aka my husband, who always encourages me in that. And I think to your point, in your 40s, I think you care a lot more about how true you are to yourself than any other time in your life. So, and I think that's where it's like, okay, I'm going to be me, and whatever that looks like is great, because God created me. He put me here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. Whatever that purpose is, I'm going to fulfill it, but I'm going to fulfill it to the truest sense that I know. And that's what it's going to be. And if people don't like it, oh well.
That's a position of strength. And I dare say there's a lot of people who would try to get there but couldn't, because the pressure is just too much.
Well, and it's a process. Like again, it's not getting there. It's a process. And the self-referral and the self-reflection is really important, because like I said, I'm still dealing with it. Like, I don't want to judge my family, because they're in their own journey. And they're being true to themselves at the time that they're in right now as well.
And that's what makes religion so dangerous.
Yeah.
Because you can judge one person by a different set of rules.
Yeah.
Than another. And if you go into one culture, it doesn't work. It doesn't play.
Exactly. Yeah. That's part of one of the reasons that I left.
So that's why I have so many identity crises in my life, because I've tried to be a part of too many churches that have different rules.
They do, yeah.
And you don't know until you get in there, and you're like, wait, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I've been walking with you guys for a while. I didn't know you believed that.
Yeah.
That's
charismatics or the Pentecostals have a totally different view versus Lutheran or other versions. Yeah. Yeah. And I grew up, I tasted all the flavors, you know.
Mm-hmm.
My grandfather was Baptist. I grew up that way.
Doesn't the ilk of your tribes, Christian tribes, they're the ones that believe the earth is literally 6,000 years old and all that?
Yeah, and they
talk about that. That varies too.
Yeah.
In Christianity, right? The approach on these matters.
Well, and this was like, you know, long time ago. I think I was 12 or so when I was going to private Christian school, and they were teaching about, you know, the history of the earth and how old it is, and how carbon dating is fallacious because it doesn't actually date correctly. So the earth is 6,000 years old according to the Bible. And I believed it with my whole heart, because I thought that everything that came out of the Bible and out of the church was 100% true. And so I would debate. I went on to a different school, 7th or 8th grade, and I'm debating my teacher who's trying to teach me otherwise. I was sitting there just debating just nonstop about how I think that, you know, that's the truth of the planet Earth. You know, and come to find out, modern science, there's so much more to it than we ever knew even back then. I mean, this was 30 years ago. So, but yeah, my grandfather's culture, what my dad grew up in was dancing and drums were evil. So percussion was not allowed at all. And neither was dancing. And those are two things I absolutely love.
Love.
For me, that was difficult growing. I mean, my dad didn't necessarily prescribe to that. He's a musician, so he kind of walked away from that version. But at the same token, when it's part of your family culture, his brothers, some of his siblings still were very much ascribed to that. It's really difficult when you're made different. Like my mom jokes that I came out of the womb dancing. Like, I just love movement. I love percussion, and I always have. And so I didn't really know how to express myself or how to be myself. And I think that's part of the reason why I had to leave the church, was because I was told my whole life how to act, how to think, how to do everything. And it was like, when am I going to be able to think for myself? That's how I felt, at least. That's how I interpreted it.
And then you show up in the world as a baby because you haven't had your own ideas. You've been borrowing other people's ideas about who you are most of your life. I mean, I'm speaking for myself. Borrowing other people's ideas of who I am. And in one culture, you're a leader. You're seen as a leader, somebody who can tell the other people the way. And then in a different culture, boy, you're just at the bottom of the totem pole.
Exactly.
You got no voice.
Yep. Isn't that funny? So, and I experienced that too, because I did YWAM, Youth with a Mission, and I went overseas. And so that was really eye-opening too, because I lived with people from 7 different countries. And they all had their different versions of God and their different experiences and their different languages and their different approaches to their faith. And so I was confronted with that, quite viscerally on a daily basis, living with 40 people on an old military base outside of Madrid and having to really confront all of my ideas, all of my beliefs, all of the things, right?
Wow.
And it was a very deep, restorative, eye-opening, painful time because I was like 18, I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't want to go to school. And so I was like, let me just go on a missions trip and go by myself halfway across the world and just figure it out, right? And so that was super eye-opening. Like,
it's pretty courageous for an 18-year-old.
I just always, you can ask Kash, I've always been kind of that way. Like I dive in head first. I feel what I'm supposed to do. Like I intuit it, I can feel it, and then I do it. And sometimes I have zero clue how it's going to end, but it works out. Like when we met, it was the same thing. Like within 7 months we were married. It was like just crazy synchronicities and things lined up. But yeah, that's the other reason I have this crazy intuition and it's guided me my whole life. And then my struggle with being in the church was
you have to bypass
they basically teach you how to bypass your intuition versus harness it, versus tap into it, versus really understand how your intuition works and how to like garner that for the kingdom of God. They don't necessarily do that. Not all churches are the same. I'm not saying that at all. Because I learned a lot, but growing up in the church, and I value so much of what I learned, and so much of who I am is still part of that, right? Like I can't negate that. But I guess there's always a light and a dark to every experience, right? There's always kind of like a balance of those two things. And I think the dark part of it was people consistently telling me to ignore my intuition, consistently feeling like I would hit a wall no matter where I went. Like, people telling us not to get married so quickly because we haven't known each other that long, and not to have kids too quickly, and like telling us all these things about how we should live our lives instead of saying, listen to God, listen to your intuition, And so.
And what was it like to repossess, I guess, your intuition after having all those other voices?
I was honestly kind of agnostic for a while.
Okay.
I couldn't listen to worship music. I couldn't go to church. It would make me cry. And I couldn't be around people because I felt like they were just hawks trying to like come in on me. Like, you need to come back to church. And I'm like, I can't right now. Like, I just can't. I need my space. So I reached a really low, dark place, and I didn't know where to reach because I had no one there for me. Nobody that could be there for me without the church, which was kind of odd. You would think I would have had a resource. But where I went was psychology first. Because I felt like if I had more understanding as to how my body and my brain works, then I would be able to forge a path. And it's not like I wasn't cognizant of that at the time. Really, I was just on YouTube trying to find out what is my next step? Like, how do I get through this time when I have zero support? And not to say Kash wasn't there, but we were both going through specific things at that time. And so he was kind of on his journey, I was on my journey, and we were both simultaneously going through a period of time.
That's kind of beautiful that God gave you each other
Yeah.
to go through that with, so you didn't have to feel that the real alone, like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
doing this by
Yeah.
myself.
It was very
I might be on the
intense.
planet by myself. I don't know.
Well, it was interesting though, because we were going through it at the same time, but separate, like
Right.
together, but separate.
Right.
Like he had his stuff that he was working through with God, and I had my stuff.
That's
And
beautiful.
so that's kind of like where, honestly, the first video that I ran across that really started to make me think differently was Tony Robbins. And I was like, oh, that's different. And so it went from Tony Robbins to other people who are similar in that field. And then I ended at neuroscience, which was Dr. Joe Dispenza.
I love him.
Yes, so Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, I believe was the one. And then there's another one, Becoming Supernatural. Becoming Supernatural, I would have to find the quote, but there's a quote in the book that basically says that they've decoded our DNA to read God within. And that accessing God is our birthright. We were created that way. There is no intermediary necessary. This is who we are. And I just was like a bomb went off in my head. And I was like, oh, that's different. Like I've never experienced this before. This whole idea was completely foreign to me. And so that started a whole new chapter for me. And some of this is going to be controversial, but hey, here we go. Some of my spiritual gifts came back online. I started getting visions and writing a book, and all sorts of things started happening again. And God began to clean me internally of just a lot of darkness and a lot of trappings and a lot of just spiritual junk is what it felt like. It was almost like I felt like God was doing spiritual surgery on me. And I literally got a visual, because I'm a very visual person. I got a visual of such a weird visual, but you know those like things that they take to clean out drains?
Yeah.
Those snakes, almost like that. So I had like an
auger, I think they're called.
Yeah, I had like a pipe down the center of my body, and there was a lot of darkness in there, and I could just feel it swirling and it's coming out of my body. And so there was this like very visceral feeling of, okay, this is where the real work happens, where the rubber meets the road, where God's like calling you out on your stuff and like, hey, you don't need this. This needs to go. You need to refine yourself. So that's when the real work started to happen. And I read the Bhagavad Gita, which is a Hindu text. It's basically it's not necessarily a religious text, right, Kash?
It is.
It is a religious text. But it's like an epic poem. It's in the form of a allegory. And it was super eye-opening to me because there were so many similarities to the Bible and to a lot of the stories that I've read before, in the Iliad and the Shahnameh and a lot of epic poems throughout many cultures. I started to study these things. I'm like, wait a minute, there's a common thread. There's a common thread through all of these. Yeah, there's always perversions and people who like exacerbate things and they like make it what it isn't, as we discussed. But I saw the commonalities and the golden thread, so to speak, through it all. And I'm like, that makes sense. That makes sense because God is irrefutable. Like he is who he is, who he is. Whether you see purple and I see yellow,
Perspective.
Yeah.
It's perspective.
It doesn't mean it's any different. Like if God was this is what I always say because it just makes the most sense to me. If God was a giant diamond in the middle of this room and you were on that side and I was on this side, and I saw yellow and you saw purple, is it still the same diamond?
It is.
So depending on which angle you come from, you're going to see something else. Doesn't mean it's any different. It just means that we as humans cannot fully comprehend who God is.
You're literally writing, you're saying what I wrote in a journal. I was like, boom, diamond, perspective. Opinions need to be defended. Perspectives don't.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, well, and then God will challenge you too. It's like, is your opinion a perspective or is it not? Right? Because
Yep.
sometimes we think they are, but then we realize that they're not. So it's been a very interesting, 14-year journey of really just reclaiming my sovereignty. I think that's how I would word it if I were to word it, is reclaiming my sovereignty. And I never stopped loving Jesus. Never. I just really wanted to know who he really was.
Yeah. And not through the lens of someone else's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I saw many different lenses in many different churches. And I was kind of tired of it. It's like,
you're describing where I'm at right now. and I belong to a church, but
yeah,
I don't, I have some visceral reactions when I'm on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
Like, am I supposed to be here or not? This is wild. And feeling completely invisible because I identified so much with leadership because, you have this prophetic gifting or this apostolic gifting and then they promote you with this identity and then you feel like you have to live up to it.
Yeah.
All the while feeling like, am I an imposter?
Yeah. Well, and part of that is like the ego, the flesh, letting that go and letting God lead. Part of it's not even the church at all. It's just us. So it really is, it comes down to, like you said, are you where you're supposed to be? Because it could be there. I'm not negating that is a tool that God uses. He does use it. He used it for most of my life. But it got me to a place where I had to make a pivot, make a shift in order to be authentic.
Yeah. I know that God's calling a lot of us to maturity, but definitely me specifically. I realize that there's a lot of habits that I have that are spiritual teenager habits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not a way that an adult should be relating in the world. But those systems kept me young and unable to have mature reactions to certain things. And now I'm having to be like, okay, I just have to accept where I'm at and not make myself wrong or get twisted in my ego about how bad I've become or how bad I am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I said, it's a process. And but being okay with it and realizing that that's what it is the hardest part of it. Because most people, I would say, would avoid it and still go for the external. So confronting it head on is seemingly the hardest part. But then doing the work and getting through it is the beauty of it. Because then you start to really own it for yourself, right?
And I love how you brought up Joe Dispenza and some of these other teachers that have helped me in attune myself to the inner voice and not everything.
Yeah.
Because you're right, like worship music and certain things are very triggering for me.
Yeah. Worship music especially. I love worship. Don't get me wrong. I was in the choir. I led worship. My dad's musical family, like everyone sings and plays an instrument. There is a huge value for it, I believe. But also, there are some worship songs that are very degrading and very like, poor me, I'm a sinner. I need you, God. And to me,
it's separation. Language
like,
of separation.
Exactly. It's weakness, separation. And that can lead to what I told Kash, we were talking about this the other day, an extreme form of dissonance. So do you know what dissonance is in music? when you play the piano and you play the wrong keys together and it sounds terrible. That's dissonance. So what ended up happening with me was this extreme form of what I say dissonance, like equal and opposite, like this knowing that I am a child of God and that I am a friend of Christ and I co-create with Christ and all the things that I was taught. And then also simultaneously having some of these lyrics where it says, I'm a sinner, I'm poor, I'm destitute, I'm this, I'm that. And I'm like, this is not adding up. Like, how can those be the same? That doesn't make sense to me. So that's where the cracks started to show, where it just didn't make sense anymore. It's like, I don't want to constantly be striving to be something that I'm not, and or to live up to a standard that someone told me I should be, when that's not what God called me to do. So if that means I have to step out of respect for my family and myself, I will. That's it.
Does that make holidays more interesting?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But it's like I said, I never stopped loving Jesus. I never, I just wanted to know who he really was. You know, so I read I listened to podcasts about the missing years of Jesus, about how he went to India and went to all these other places, all the years from what, like, was it 11 or Kash?
17 years.
Yeah.
When he, there's 17 missing years, give or take, from a certain period till
he came back and was crucified
30,
in his 30s.
33,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So in texts all over the world, they revere him and they talk about him, but we were never taught that in church. It's like, wait a minute. They talk about him in Indian texts and culture. They talk about him in Iran too, yeah?
Yeah.
And a lot of other cultures. So to me, it was like, I want the real, like the actual history, right? The real version.
Yeah.
And what was the Lord's Prayer, really? What was the original language? That blew me away. Completely different than what we were taught. So that part to me too, like you were saying, in different cultures, there's different meanings, right? Aramaic is substantially different than English. And that being that the Bible was translated, 4, 5, 6 times, different languages, they did the best they could with whatever, meanings that they could derive. But if you go back to the transliteration of the Lord's Prayer, it is one of the most powerful things I've ever heard. And you can almost never find the actual translation anywhere. But the actual translation is completely different.
What does it say in the actual translation?
It says, "O Father, Mother, birther of the cosmos." That's how it starts. It's not actually gender specific.
I love that.
Yeah. And it just birther of the cosmos, not just like heaven and earth. It's talking about everything, encompassing everything. It's very deep and it's very, I don't know what the word would be to describe it, but very deep and very esoteric and very etheric. It's like, wow, totally different.
So we were taught, or some of the churches that I belong to were taught, the building the kingdom is, you got to be a part of the children's ministry. We're building the building. We're having a potluck on Saturday, and that's building the kingdom.
Yeah.
And people they just don't have any idea what building kingdom actually is.
Yeah.
And yet
it's unfortunate.
They're reciting the prayer all the time.
Yeah. I mean, and it's not like the prayer is bad. It's still a good prayer, but there's pieces
more to it
missing.
I'm reading a book right now that's going into that, and all of the how prayer developed and what words actually mean in their original state. And I'm just exploring a new way of relating to God that isn't churchianity.
Yeah. And I think that's beautiful, like, because we've said many times on this podcast that the truth is immutable. It will always be revealed. So there's no right or wrong way to do it. I can go read the Bhagavad Gita. It's not going to like do anything to me. It's just a book, you know, and maybe some people revere it as a holy scripture, and that's great. But if I learn something from it, then it's valuable, right? Whether I read about Buddhism, Taoism, any of the isms, I think there's value to it. Why? Because how do you love your neighbor if you don't understand them?
True.
How do you relate with people if you have zero idea about how they think or how they move or how they act or how they honor each other? And that to me was always kind of a sore point with the church, was that they believe only one way and that's it, no matter what. I'm like, but I've been in other cultures. I've been in other countries. They still believe in Christ, but they don't believe what you're saying. So that to me is not truth. It's not truth. So why are we majoring in the minors? They asked Jesus, Lord, Lord, how do you get to heaven? He said, love your neighbor as yourself. That's it.
You can't really love your neighbor unless you love yourself.
Exactly. If you're constantly trying to appease someone else, people please, you know, do all the things the right way because they told you to, you're not going to be authentic with your own voice inside your head. I think that was the biggest thing for me, was that I had all these filters that had been built up over time. Was like, this is right, this is wrong, this is good, this is bad. But then how do you reconcile that when you don't even really have your own thoughts anymore? Like, because you're constantly filtering them through that religious context.
Yep.
And so if I come back to whatever those things are, great. But if it's authentic, that's what I care about. So I guess that's just
there's
where
a parallels to what you were saying about substances. Come back, leave it, and come back to it.
Yeah.
So it can apply on both arenas.
Food, anything of the flesh, to speak in Christian lingo. We can rely on anything in all reality. It doesn't even have to be anything physical. It could just be like a mental construct. And then you're just relying on that, which doesn't support life.
Everything must be discarded at higher levels.
Yeah.
Everything, even spiritual practice, even meditation, even chanting. Eventually, these are all just rocket launchers. Christianity, the religion, Islam, all these things that we use it, but as we evolve, we eventually have to discard everything. All there's left is nothing except that we've broken through the illusion of separation. So everything eventually must be discarded. You know, and it will come for the person that's willing to pay that ultimate price. Jesus Christ did. He's inviting others to do it too. He set the sort of standard benchmark. He didn't want to be worshipped.
That's what I find interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He said, he actually gave a command, don't worship me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet,
Here we are.
every church on Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we worship a book or a person. And this is the big crux of, Christianity, of course. But I see it differently from where I stand. And the effects of following his way corroborate with that through direct experience for me. Not just what somebody wrote, but the direct experience is what I go after. So what do? I refine my nervous system more and more so that I keep getting this direct experience, this direct communication, this surety. See? So the more I fine-tune my instrument, then the more communication I have, the less doubt I have about the next areas of the ascension path. so that the direct experience continues to cultivate more and more in terms of my trajectory. So this is sort of, so then what I do then in life, you know, fasting, all these things that I do have to do with stabilizing the connection through direct wisdom, through direct communication. And then the various adjustments I make are supportive of that, whatever that is. We talked about cannabis earlier and not being, if you do it for a season, fine, but also come off of it, you know, just because dependency on something like that is also going to give you diminishing returns eventually, you know. So we talked about that earlier, but I wanted to just underscore that.
So did you ever go to church, or was that never really a part of your experience?
My upbringing was different. My parents didn't force religion on me. Hers did. They forced it. So this child was indoctrinated.
Yeah.
Quite literally. There's a lot of stuff you have to unwind before you can ascend. Well, I didn't have that. I went after Christ myself. And I went through all the religions on my own volition. That's a big difference. Huge. So I searched for it myself. So I had an advantage in that sense. So yeah, I did go through Christianity, also every other religion.
Yeah, we wouldn't have gotten married if that was the case, because my parents raised me, you're going to marry a Christian, that's what's going to happen. So at that point in time, I was still of that mindset. So that's how we actually connected. Was
because I went into that domain, I learned Christian language. So I'm very versed in it. I read the Bible. I'm very versed in Christianity. So I had the language. I have the language of Islam. I have the language of Hinduism, Buddhism, Zoroastrianism. I have these languages just because I'm an autodidact and I loved, I was looking for the way, you know, the path, the truth. So I went through all these things, learning a lot. And so I knew that language very well, you know. And so the power of it can shine through there, through that vehicle, as it does in many other vehicles. But eventually we have to make a decision. How far do we want to go? Do we want to are we willing to give up our life, what we deem as so precious, which is just an illusion? We're willing to go all out. And if the answer is yes, then that's what mysticism is not wanting to go to heaven later, bring heaven, you know, experience heaven now. That's really the path of mysticism. So what you do in life then is all in an effort to create conditions so that you don't have a interpretation of your circumstances anymore. Most of all of our life is we interpret and we assign some meaning to circumstances that are typically negative. But through gutting out all of these exterior things, you're left with nothing except that direct experience and acceptance. And that's liberation, that's power.
Yeah.
Because you see beyond this illusion, this veil, you see through the veil. You see through the veil, and now you're liberated. Because there's a higher truth that you have now conjoined with, which supersedes, trumps all of these things in this earth plane, this earth school. That's the liberation. There's gradations of that liberation, but you eventually give up, surrender. It's like, this is great. This is exactly where I should be. Life is for me. It's not against me. And yeah, so.
I'm curious, though, when you guys moved here from California without a church, like, how does that, I mean, because in my mind, I'm thinking I wouldn't move somewhere where I knew no one.
We're very adventurous souls.
Well,
you moved because we knew God wanted us to move.
yeah.
Okay.
Because of that communication that was stabilized already. That's why. But the ability to have fortitude like that is predicated on that inner work of stability. Once that's more and more increased, then fortitude increases, courage increases, because you're getting access to that higher data stream. You don't need others to approve you. You don't need external approval. It's an inner approval with exterior confirmations. That's how I think the divine speaks to us. Definitely synchronicities, and maybe it might be animals and birds and various things that make you really sure that that's God confirming what he's already placed in your heart.
Yeah.
Right? And then that's then the execution comes. The execution of an action that's from the transcendent, pure consciousness. Then you go. That comes through the development of consciousness over the time. Yeah, and then...
And that's where that scripture comes to mind, is the peace that surpasses understanding. You don't understand why you're moving to another state, but you're totally at peace with it and super excited, right? And you don't know what's on the other end of it. But once you get there, you'll figure it out. That's kind of how we've always operated.
Yeah. Yeah, because what's the worst that could happen? Nothing. We think, we put a lot of stock into what if. A lot of energy goes to that. And so, but there is no future. The future is the present. There is no past. Have you ever gone to the past? You've never gone to the future nor the past. These are just language models that we assign. Everything is in the present moment. So fix the present moment. Work on the present moment. Work on the present moment. And wherever you go then, you'll be in the present moment. What could go wrong? What could possibly, circumstantially, whatever it is, you'll be able to deal with it. That's the truth.
Yeah.
But see, we tend to lean on negative possibilities.
Yeah.
The ego wants that to stay alive, to stay in control. And that's the very mechanism that we're trying to get liberated from.
Yeah.
Right.
I have a lot of flashbacks. Like I'll have flashbacks.
Yeah, it's a memory. So imagine if you didn't have that memory.
Life would be so much easier.
Exactly. That's exactly right. See what I'm saying? It's because of this memory that we dig it back up, and we're addicted to having worries. Jesus says, don't worry, right? But we're addicted to worry. We're addicted to it. We need it to cope.
That's why I like Joe Dispenza's breaking the habit of being yourself.
Yeah. He breaks that down for you. He's like, it's a neurological loop, and you're feeding off of those hormones.
If you see it from a neurological perspective, it's much easier to approach it versus the lens of religion, because the lens of religion will tell you that you shouldn't, you shouldn't. Right.
Almost
wrong.
Like something's wrong with you or whatever, but they're not actually educating you about your body. Yeah.
That was good. That was a good show today. We should continue these conversations. This one wasn't about insurance at all.
At all. But I needed that, Jamie. I loved what you shared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So continue to do this. We'll have more episodes in the future where we discuss some of these things. And thank you. Thanks for being a guest, and we'll have you again.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. It was very eventful.
I like it.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Thank you.